Give me a thumbs up, everyone, if you can see the questions clearly and you are ready to rock and roll. Who else is in the house? Marelise, welcome. Or is that Marelise?
It's me.
You are most
thank
welcome.
You.
It's a pleasure. Okay, awesome. Have you got your pen and paper standing by? And remember who you wanted to be. Have you got your pen and paper standing by? Let's get started. Awesome. Okay. So question number 1, it's about this guy called Archimedes. And the question is and it's a graph describing basically water in a particular bathtub, and it's leaving the bathtub. And then at some point, after a certain number of minutes, let me use my pen. After a certain number of minutes, basically the drain is completely empty. So once you've got the answer to that, just pop 1 and your answer in the chat. For question number 2, I need to scroll down a little bit. Question number 2, how much does it cost to have your lawn mowed for 2 hours? And there are 4 options. And then question number 3, you have to match these graphs with the correct statement. So I'm going to be a bit quieter and let you enjoy this, and then we'll have a bit of a chat and I will introduce myself properly. So once you got your answer for number 1, why don't you just pop it in the chat, just so that we can all, doesn't have to be right, but I just want to get a sense of what you're doing. The same for question number 2. And then question 3 might take a bit longer, but 1 and 2, I'd love to see what you guys are getting at this stage. Okay. Aha. I see Tonela has locked in the answer. Thank you very much, Tonela. Who else? I'll give you a moment. If you want the full credit when I reveal the answer, you need to lock in your answer. It's like a game show. Okay, so I'm going to give you some feedback. Basically, in the previous lesson, I spoke a lot about graphs and interpreting, and every graph has a story to tell. And the story of this graph is that basically the water is going down until it gets to 0 over here. At this point, if you go across and look where it's measuring, it's going to be at 0. And so at that point, when it's 0, it's in line with 5 minutes. And so the answer is going to be 5 minutes. Now, for the second question, how much does it cost to have your lawn mowed for 2 hours? We have to look at the story of the graph. And on the vertical axis, it says total cost for mowing. And then on the horizontal axis, it has mowing time. And we're interested in 2 hours. So we need to go to where the 2 is and see where it's in line. And it seems to be in line with 18. So the answer would be C. And then the third question is to match each of these things here. So A, B, C, D, E. They've done the first one, which is B. And so that has been taken care of. The temperature stays the same for a time and then falls. For me, that has to be D. Okay, it stays the same and then falls. Then the temperature rises and then falls quickly. I would say that that is going to be C, which is this one over here. So we've used up these two. The temperature is always the same. Pop it in the chat. What is the graph that has the temperature always the same? We've only got 3 choices left. Let's see if I can get a different color. Where's my... Oh, it's good. The Zoom thing is hiding there. There we go. So we've got this one as a choice. We've got that one as a choice. We've got that one as a choice. Which one do you think it is for the temperature is always the same? Aha, I see someone has replied. It is indeed A. So it's going to be A, this one over here. And then the temperature rises, stays the same for a time, and then falls. It looks a bit like Table Mountain. So, and I'm in Cape Town, just in case you're wondering. Hence my reference to Table Mountain. And then the last one, it kind of has to be E. So let's see if it matches. The temperature rises, then stays the same, and then rises again. So that's going to be E. Okay, so this really, can I try zooming in a bit? I absolutely can. Thank you, Nikela. You feel free to interrupt with me at any time. Let's see if that's a bit better. So if we talk about the previous lesson, which I know some of you may have had some difficulties or watch the video, when you interpret graphs, you first of all have to look at the axes or the horizontal and vertical lines, see what the story is about, and then try and interpret what's going on. And so that was the main focus of the previous lesson. Today, we're going to be focusing on points in a global graph. So if you look at C, we're interested in what is a point like that, or what are the little relationships that are sitting inside that make up global graphs. That's what we're interested in today for our main focus. Okay, but before we get to that, let me tell you a bit about me. So that's me coming to you live from my flat in Cape Town. And my name is Peter, or you can refer to me as Mr. Skitter or Mr. S or Sir. Those are all good names that I've used before in my teaching career. That is a little shot of Bishop from up above the mountain, if you go running up the mountain. And these are my favorite things to do. So that is a little bit, just so that you don't feel like you're talking to a robot. I am a real person, I promise. Okay, could you start by actually, I'd love to know a little bit more about you. So could you, I know Arsen is from Cape Town as well. I think he's from Belleville, if I remember correctly from the last lesson. Could you pop in the chat for me where you are in the country? And even if you, maybe like what, whereabout you are, or the town or anything like that. Oh, welcome, Adriel. I think you've joined us. Keke, welcome. Lutando, Mapaseka. I hope I'm saying that correctly. If you could just pop in the chat, whereabout are you in the country? I would love, and you know, even like a little bit about yourself, like I like tennis or something like that. Pop something in the chat just so we can get a little bit of a feel for each other. Johannesburg. Aha. Yes, and you may be wondering who Nikela is. So Nikela is, in fact, the, I want to say tutor. How would you describe it, Nikela? You are the?
Hey, yeah, so I am the mentor, and I help out in the lives, and I give you guys the homework and also run different workshops as well.
Perfect. Nikela is kind of my hype person slash helper slash overseer person, and also she'll be responding in the chat as we go, and if you need to, if you have technical issues, Nikela can respond to you. Obviously I'll be more focused on the learning as we go, but we'll be working together as a team. Onke is in Cape Town. He likes to play soccer. Awesome. Tornado likes reading and listening to music. I'm with you on that. Bloemfontein, I love how we're all around the country. It really makes it kind of interesting and different. Anybody from the Eastern Cape? Lutando is in Cape Town. Anybody from KZN? Okay, well, I'm very happy to be with you guys, and I'm super impressed that you're taking the time to try and improve. Oh, Richard Bay, yes, it's above Durban, if I remember correctly. Oh, you like tennis? Oh, awesome, Nokobonga. I'm a big tennis fan. My favorite player is Roger Federer. Okay, so we're going to get going, but thank you so much for sharing a little bit about yourself. It's so much nicer as a teacher just to get a sense of who you're working with, and hopefully, maybe in future lessons we'll even turn our cameras on and say hello to each other. And hopefully I've given you a little bit of insight into who I am. Nikayla, I don't know if you want to say anything just briefly about yourself, anything that comes to mind. Putting you on the spot awesomely, sorry.
Okay, so one hobby that I like is making clothes. I like to design and make my own clothes.
Awesome. Okay, so let's get going with the main content for today. So if we looked at the previous lesson, we looked at interpreting graphs, but if you're going to draw your own graphs, there's some skills that you need to master around number lines and knowing something about something called coordinate pairs. And so I'd love to know if you've seen this notation before, and you can say to me in the chat, do you know what 2:3 means related to graphing? So give me a thumbs up or a yes if you know what that means or how it relates to a graph. And if you haven't seen that before, put a thumbs down in the chat. Do you know what 2:3 means? How is 2 and 3 related? Give me a yes. Luneko, okay, Luneko has, I hope I'm saying that right. No, Onke hasn't seen anything about it yet. And that's fine because we're all at different schools and different places. So I don't expect everyone to be at the same place. And no, okay. Okay, so that's not a problem at all. I'll just wait a minute or so more. No, okay, fantastic. Okay, so what this notation, Nokobonga has heard it. Okay, so even if you have, you'll probably find that a bit of revision will do you good. So when we talk about graphing something, we always have these two number lines. The one is the vertical number, the horizontal, and the one is the vertical. And you would have seen this in the opening question, and it's almost like they have markings. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and so on. And so really what there are two number lines that are at 90 degrees to each other. And what they're trying to show us is the relationship between two things in a generic way, in a way like, any two things could possibly have a relationship. And this is a way that describes them. If we go back to the first question, I'm just going to pop back to the do now. You'll see that even though there weren't markings, you'll see temperature was on the vertical axis or the vertical line and time was on the horizontal. It just didn't have any numbers. It was just a big, what we call a global graph. It had sort of a trend or a shape. But if we looked at something like this, Mo's mowing service, you'll see that there's markings for hours along here, and there's markings for the cost of mowing over here. So in order to draw graphs, you have to know how to get the points, the individual points that make up the shape. And so that's what I'm going to introduce you to now. So what the notation 2:3 means is that along the horizontal, what we would call the x-axis. So we call the horizontal line the x-axis, and we call this line over here the y-axis. 2:3 means to get to the point that this represents, we go 2 across and we go 3 up. And then the point over here is called the point 2:3. Now, if I had to say, where is the point 5, 4, the point 5,4 wouldn't be at the same place. The point 5,4 would be going 5 across and 4 up. And so that would be that point over there. So all this thing is a way of describing a point on what's called basically a set of axes, or we call the Cartesian plane. Now, if we put lots of points together, what we get is we can get things like a straight line, or we can get a curved line, or we can get what we call a global graph. But all global graphs are made up of these things called points. Okay, so that's my basic introduction to plotting points, but we need to practice. So in the chat, you are going to answer these questions for me. This is going to be question number 1, and this is going to be question number 2. And before we answer them, I'm just going to go back for a second. Sorry. In this notation, this first one is called the x coordinate, and the second one is called the y coordinate. And the first one is always about going across, left or right. The second one is about going up or down. Okay, so that is the basic idea between this notation. And let's do a little practice question. So I'm going to give you a moment. And so then what you're going to do is in the chat, you're going to write 1, and then you're going to give me the coordinate of the first one, and then 2, and you're going to give me the coordinates in that notation that I was giving you. Okay, so I'm going to give you a minute or so to think about that. And even if you get it wildly wrong, not important at this point. All I want to know is what is the y coordinate of the point plotted below, and what is the x coordinate of the point plotted over here? And just give it a go and pop it in the chat. I'm just going to close my windows so that it doesn't make a noise. In fact, you could even start by writing down what is this coordinates values? What are the numbers that this point is represented by? And then ask yourself which one of the two is the y coordinate. Aha, I see some answers coming in. Komogelo. I'm probably not saying it perfectly, but thank you for inputting your answer. Let's all be brave here. One of the things about learning maths is just being active in the process. Even if you get it wrong, if you receive the right answer afterwards, being active in the process helps you regardless. And so this is an important thing, to be active, even if initially the first round is just kind of getting there. Aha, all sorts of interesting answers. This is great, guys. Keep them coming. Okay, fantastic. Aha. Okay, so let's have a look. If we look at this point, as it stands right now, it's in line with where x is 2. And so the coordinates x, well, in the coordinate pair, we're going to write a 2 first. And then on this line, it's in line with a 5. And so that point is going to be the point 2, 5. But the question asked for the y coordinate. Now, the y coordinate is the second one. And so the answer will actually be 5, but it's going to come from the point with the notation 2, 5. The second one, it's in line with where x is 6. And then, so it's going to have an x coordinate first as 6. And then it's in line with y is 4. Now, in this question, it doesn't ask you for the y coordinate, it asks you for the x coordinate. And so the answer would be 6. Now, these questions are taken from the app that Watobe has. So at the end of the lesson, we're going to assign some homework, and these types of questions are in the app for you to practice, and it even gives you feedback. And so I just want to make you aware of that today's lesson is almost entirely coming from the app, just to kind of model those types of questions. Are there any questions from the students or things you're unsure? I'd love to get a question. And in fact, like, you would get ninja points if you turn on your mic and you ask it with audio. Then I'm going to hit the roof. So or you can type it though. I'll be super happy. But are there any questions about that process before I move on? Okay, we're all going to practice this more. Michaela, are there any ninjas in training? Let's have a look. Anybody want to ask a question audibly? Anyone want to chat, Kristen? Okay, I'm going to move on. So this next question, in fact, I'm going to do this one. Okay, I tell you what, I'm going to change the question here. I'm going to adapt it. So let's ignore this bit here. I want to know, what are the coordinates? We're going to say question, this is going to be question 3, and this is going to be question 4. And I want to know what are the coordinates of the 2 points over here. So the one is over here, and the one is over here. What are the coordinates, or the coordinate pair for each of these points? Aha, Nukabonga, you're on. What about question 4? Songe, you guys, you see, you're too clever. So actually, this question, the points are the same point. If you look here, this is in line with 5, and that's in line with 5, and the same with this. So this is the same point. It's the point 5, 5. Okay, I feel like I need to throw you a little bit more, something a bit more exciting. So let us, this is going to be question 5 and question 6 now. What if I want to know what that point is, and I want to know what that point is, the big green dot. So question 5 and 6, pop it in the chat. I'm slouching. Let me sit up. So our first answers are coming in. Thank you very much. Let's keep them coming, guys. Aha. So I see a lot. For 5, I also get the 0.92, and I see that quite a lot throughout the thing. And then for the now this is important. I can see most of you have got the numbers right. It's just about the order. If you look at the first point, it's always where it's in line with what I will call the x-axis or the horizontal axis. So let me actually rub out here. You'll see I always start from the horizontal line and I go up. And that is considered the x coordinate. Now, to get the y coordinate, I go across. And so the first one here, well, it's going to be the 0.92. Now, in the second question, the x value is quite small. So that will be a 2. And then it's in line with an 8. So the coordinates here, or the coordinate pair, is going to be 2, 8. Okay. Now I just saw a couple of you switched it around, and that's not a problem. That always happens. I've always seen that always happens. But remember that, the going across left or right first, and then going up or down second. Let's do one. Actually, no. Let's move on, and we'll talk about this a bit more later. Let me ignore that for now. Okay. This is a slightly more interesting question with a bit of text, and I'm going to read some of it for you, and then you're going to answer it. You're going to choose the answer for me. So I'm going to call this option A, this option B, this option C, and it says, Mateus is recording cooking times for ravioli on a coordinate grid. Now, sometimes this Cartesian plane is also called a coordinate grid. Each ordered pair represents the number of pieces of ravioli and the number of minutes it takes to cook, respectively. So normally the x, and if you look at the story of the graph, clearly you can see the horizontal one is pieces of ravioli, and the vertical one, or the y-axis, is minutes to cook. They say one serving takes 9 pieces, well, one serving is 9 pieces of ravioli and 6 minutes to cook. Now, and then it gives you coordinate pairs for 3 other amounts, and you have to match the correct graph. So I'm going to give you a minute, and we'll call this question number 7, and I would like you to match the correct graph for this. Aha, keep those answers coming. Michaela, is there anything while they're doing this, anything important? I see the lights going down. Is it a bit dark, or can you still see me?
I think we can still see you for now. It's still pretty clear.
I don't know why the sun just ran away. Okay, I see lots of A's. Are you guys onto something? Let's have a look. So the only way I can do this is to check. So if I look at the first one, so I have to say which one matches. Now the 0.96, if I look at A, this is the point here, this is the 0.69, right? And the problem is the point up here is 9.6. I'll do the second one just in case. Let's see. The second one is going to be the 0.818. It seems like this is the other way around to me, so it can't actually be A. So let's try the second one. The second one's first point is 9.6. Oh, apologies for the. Let's see if I can get my thing to make sense here. Okay, so that point there is 9, because that's 6. Then over here, it's 18.8. And then over here, this point is 27.10. So I'm starting to think we're onto something here. Let's just check the last one for C. C is the 0.91, it looks like to me, 91. So 9.1. And then this one here is 18.2. And this one here is 27.3. Okay, I want you to vote again. Which one do you think matches this description up here? Put your votes in lock your votes in now. Aha. B, okay. Because you can see that this one over here matches, these points match the descriptions over here. Fantastic. Oh, my pen has just come apart. Oh, that's not ideal. Give me a second. I'll put that back together again. There we go. All right, so we're going to move on. So intro to the full coordinate plane. So I've actually only showed you a part of what's called the full Cartesian plane. The full Cartesian plane, or the coordinate grid, actually has 2 number lines. The one number line goes like this, and the other number line goes like that. And this point over here in the middle is the point 0, 0, and it's called the origin. It's got its own fancy little name, the origin, where everything begins. Now, if you, in the last thing, I made my little marks and I went 1, 2, 3, and so on, and they were all positive numbers. And this over here was also 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and they were positive numbers. But it turns out there are also things called negative numbers in mathematics on the number line. And so we're going to extend this to include things to the left. And so we're going to go like that, and we're going to get negative x values. And if we go downwards from there, we're going to get negative y values. And also what you're going to see is, because they're number lines, you'll see that when we plot things, you always see these arrows which indicate that things go on forever. And like I said, the horizontal axis is often called the x-axis, and the vertical axis is often, well, is called the y-axis. And so just in case you want to get a sense, I'm going to draw in the numbers. This is what we did before. that's going up in ones in a positive way. Let me just zoom in for a second. There we go. 7, 8, 9. But if we go to the left now, I'm going to have -1, -2, -3, -4, -5, and so on. And if I go down, I'm also going to get -1, -2, -3, and so on, which gives us a bit of a mess. But I will show you how it works almost exactly the same as the other system that we used, except we can go into the negative numbers. Just give me a thumbs up if you've seen negative numbers before, and a thumbs down if you haven't seen negative numbers before. I just want a sense of if you've even heard, if you've dealt with that part of the syllabus where we introduce negative numbers. Okabonga has heard of negative numbers. Fantastic. And it's fine if you haven't. I just want to know how much detail I'm going to go into in this next question. Okay. So, I mean, negative numbers are basically just moving to the left or down in the number line, essentially. Okay. All right, then we're gonna move on. So, if I give you that Cartesian plane, and what you're going to do for me is you'll notice that we're now starting to label our points with labels. Like there's a point A, a point B, and a point C. I want you, we're going to call this question, we'll call this question 8, or it's A, question 9, and question 10. I want you to look at this, and I want you to try and read off the answers using the idea from earlier, even though I haven't modeled it for you. What do you think the coordinates of A are, which would correspond to 8? And I'm just going to give you 2 minutes to do that, because this is the real important idea of the lesson is, can you figure out what a coordinates or points coordinates are, and can you do the opposite of that? That's the main idea for today. So I'll give you a moment while I fix my pen. Michaela, can you hear the the person weed eating in the background, or are you being spared that that fun?
I actually can't hear it.
Oh, that's great news.
Just you.
Okay. Oh, awesome. Okay, some answers are coming in. Let's have a look. Nice. Keep those answers coming. Okay, and once you've done A, you can also do, actually, in fact, let's do A together. Let's have a look at A. And then I'll give you some more time for B and C. So if we look at A is in what we call quadrants. In fact, let me actually talk about this as we go. This is called quadrant number 1. This is called quadrant number 2. This is called quadrant number 3. This is called quadrant number 4. And it's a bit weird because it's going anti-clockwise, but it's just the way things are labeled. And you can see why they're called quadrants, because there's 4 almost blocks being left there. Now the point A, if I go up from the x-axis, it's in line with a half, to me it looks like, because there is 1 over there. So it's halfway between 0 and 1, so it's a half. And then it's in line with 4 on the y-axis. So for me, A is going to be the point a half, 4. Now I'm going to give you a little bit more time to try and do B and C, but if you did make a bit of a boo-boo on the first one, taking that into account and see if you can help, it can sort of assist you. Okay, so Anke has answered B, C is coming from Ridwan. Welcome, Ridwan. I don't think I've welcomed you yet. It's awesome to see everybody participating. Okay, so B is tricky because B is actually on the x-axis. Can you see how it's on the horizontal line? And that's interesting. Now, the most important thing, though, is that if I start at -3, and actually this is tricky, the x coordinate is in fact going to be -3. okay, because it's in line with it's in line with where x is -3. However, it doesn't go up or down from there, and so it's in line with y is 0, and so we're going to get -3, 0 here. And then for c, c's coordinates are going to be, it's in line with -1 on the x-axis, so -1 here, and it's in line with 1 over here. Okay, and so that was quite tricky, to be honest, but those should be the correct coordinates for those points. And in fact, I'm going to add some more because I just feel like we need more practice. So I'm going to add a coordinate D, which is going to be over here. And I'd like you to give me the coordinates for that. I'm going to give you one up here, which is going to be E. And I'm going to do one over here, which is going to be F. And I'm going to get rid of some of my messiness. So please write down the coordinates for D, E, and F. And then we'll see how well we can read things off the Cartesian plane. There we go. Aha. This is good, guys. Well done. It does take a while. I know initially you kind of go like, do I go across? Do I go up? Do I go down? And you just have to keep practicing. And it's like anything, you know, like the first time you do something, it's a bit odd. I remember doing this myself actually once upon a time. And it eventually your brain just goes, oh, okay, you know, this is what I need to do. So for D, it's in line with x is 2. And so the x coordinate is going to be 2. And the y coordinates, or where it's in line, the vertical is going to be -2. Okay, so the coordinates. So that's for D. Now, for, I wiped out D, sorry. I'll leave the answer down there. For E, let's have a look. Aha. Did I? Yeah, I was there. Okay. For E, what I've done is, can you see it's fallen on the half? It looks to me, so it's, I go -3, -3.5, -4, -4.5. So this is going to be -4.5 as the x coordinate. And then for the y coordinate, it's going to be 3. So I'll write that down here. E -4.5. I should be putting a semicolon and 3. And then if it is in line with -3.5, and it's in line with -3. So F is going to be -3.5 and -3. Michaela, if I could just ask you, based on what we're seeing in the chat, do we need to do another, would it be good to do a few more of these? Or actually, no, let's ask the students. Students, would you like to do a little bit more practice? Just give us a thumbs up if you want to practice a bit more of this, or thumbs down if you're like, I'm ready to rock and roll. I feel like I've got this. And I totally don't mind either way. A thumbs up if you want more practice, thumbs down or something to that equivalent if you want to move on from this particular thing. Okay, ready? I'll just wait a moment more. Okay, one more. Let's wait for a little bit more feedback. Ready? Okay, I tell you what, does ready mean, I'm not sure if that ready means I'm ready for more practice. Okay, let's just do 2 more. And then we can move on. And I'll give a little bit less time. I suppose I phrased my question a bit vaguely there. Okay, let's do a sneaky case. What about that point? I'm going to call this point, where were we up to? We were up to, comes after F, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. So I'm going to call this point over here point G, and then H. And H is going to be, it is going to be over here. So if you could just write the coordinates for that in the chat, what you think the answer is for that. Okay. Give you a moment more, and then we're going to move on. So for G, you'll see that it's in line with where X is 0. And then it's going to be 2 on the y-axis. And for H, I'm in line with -4. And then I'm in line with 4 over there. Okay, well done, everyone. That was really, I think we've made good progress. And again, you're going to practice this in the app going forward. So I think we've done enough of these ones. Should we end with, okay, let me do one more. Let me talk about the quadrants, and then I'll give you that question. Okay, on this thing called the Cartesian plane, in the previous slide, I told you there are things called quadrants. So I said this one is quadrant number 1, this is quadrant number 2, this is quadrant number 3, this is quadrant number 4. And this is important to remember. Now, in quadrant 1, all these values are positive. Okay, it was the very first exercise we did. And all the y values are also positive. So we often refer to this as the positive quadrant because it's got 2 axes that are only positive. But if we go to quadrant number 2, we see that the x side is negative and the y side is positive. So there's kind of one of each of them. That's positive, but that's negative. So that's quadrant number 2. Quadrant number 3 has an x line negative, and it has a y-axis that is negative. Okay, so both axes are in the negative part of the number line. And then quadrant number 4 has a positive x-axis, but a negative y-axis. Now, if you look at point C, what quadrant is point C in? If you could put into the chat, what quadrant is point C in? That's looking good. Indeed, it is in quadrant number 4. And this C has a positive x value, and it has a negative y value. Now, what happens if I'm sneaky? I'm not going to put it on the grid. I'm going to give you a point -3, -4. So this is not on the grid. This is just me making up a point. What quadrant is that going to be in? So I'm saying I made up a little, what's called a coordinate pair or a little mini relationship. What quadrant is that going to be in? Aha. I think you guys are getting this. Yes. So, yeah, so that's -3 across. So this point would be there and then down by 4 units. So it would be that point over there. Okay, fantastic. What quadrant would this point be in? -2, 1. What quadrant would that be in? Give me a moment. Aha. So you go 2 across and you go 1 up. And that would be that coordinate there. Fantastic. Well done, guys. You really are doing nicely. Okay, because you're doing so well, in fact, I'm going to give you a little bit more of a sneaky one. Okay, so this is what I want you to do. We can ignore this one down here. You will see that this question is saying select a quadrant or axis where each ordered pair is located on the coordinate plane. So this is really just, they call it quadrant 1, quadrant 2, quadrant 3, quadrant 4. And I want to know, should we call this point A, B, and C? I want to know which of these quadrants or on which axes are each of these points. And I'll even draw in a little Cartesian plane for you just so you can visualize that. So I'm going to give you 2 minutes to try and figure out which of these blocks, this is going to fall under. Cool. Lutando, I totally get you. I got that. So which quadrant or which axis is each of these points going to fall on? Take a moment to think about it. So Nikayla, I think we're almost done for the day. So just to, I think, what time would you normally come in? At about 10 to or 5? Do I have till 5 to?
Usually a little bit earlier, like 10 to, so I can
okay,
yeah,
perfect.
give them the homework and stuff.
Brilliant. We've done well today. We've done well. Okay, so Arson's locked in his answers. Asonge, Matando. I'm going to wait a little bit longer because this is a tough question. So which quadrant or on which axes would these end up? So most of you have said 2, 4. I think you've kind of got that. So this one is going to be in quadrant 1. Okay, red one. There we go. I agree. I absolutely agree. And then, okay, B, we've got some options for quadrant number 3. I'm still check this myself, I guess. What do we think it for B is? So B would be 0 on the x-axis. So 0 on the x-axis and -3. So actually, this second one isn't actually leaving the axes. It doesn't go because it's 0 means 0 on the x-axis and go down by -3. And so what is this line, this vertical line called? It's called the y-axis. And so in fact, the point 0 -3 is on, it's almost like on the fence. Does that make sense? 0 -3 on the fence. So we would, for B, you're going to have the y-axis. Because the problem with this point is it could be, it's not on this side and it's not on this side. It's in the middle. And in the middle is what's called the axis. Okay, for C, let's try and do C. So actually the sneaky thing we need to watch out for is that when there's a 0, it's probably going to be falling on the axis. It's kind of what we can learn from this. So where's C going to be? Which quadrant is it going to be in? Well, I go negative across, -1, and then I'm going to go up, even though it's up a half. So I should be in quadrant number 2. Let me try that again. Maybe I'm having a bad moment, but let's see. So I've got my Cartesian plane. I first go across by 1, and then I go up by a half. And so I told you that's quadrant 1, that's quadrant 2, quadrant 3, and quadrant 4. And so I would be in quadrant number 2. Okay. So definitely something which we can practice. You can practice some more on the app is practice this idea of the quadrants, but it's a bit more of an advanced idea, but you've done really, really well today. Before I go to my last bit, are there any questions or comments from the chat? Okay, you guys have been great in participation today, so thank you so much. So I normally at the end of the lesson would do an exit ticket, but essentially that last question was the exit ticket. And so I just want to show you quickly in the app. I took a screenshot, and this is sort of what the app looks like. And Michaela is going to explain to you more about your homework. And I think I just want to end the day by just giving you guys a shout out and saying thank you for being so participatory. And I think you should give yourself a hand clap or a virtual hand clap. Pop it in the chat, and then Michaela, it's over to you. Thank you for being my co-pilot.
Okay, it's a pleasure. Okay,
Well
so yeah, well done, everyone. I think you guys are doing really well. Even if you haven't done this before, I think you guys are still really trying your best and doing really well. So yeah, everyone deserves a clap.
Here we go.
Okay, so I'm just going to share my screen now to show you our homework and check in with where we are at.
I'm going to stop sharing my screen then.
Okay.
There we go.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, so yeah, you will see that we have just finished lesson 2. Well done, everyone.
I switched to lesson topics. Sorry, I switched.
Oh.
So today was ordered pairs, not types of graphs. So we use ordered pairs, but yeah.
Okay, sorry about that. Okay, so
That's
yeah,
fine.
so then the next, yeah, we'll just swap around for the next one.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just take note that that's going to be on the 18th. And for your homework, you're going to go under graphs, under pick a topic. And once you click in there, you're going to find interpret real world graphs, and you're going to find coordinate plane graphing points. So that is your homework for today. I'm just going to leave it on for a little bit so that you can take a picture or write it down. Oh. And yeah, you guys are pretty much done for the day. Well done, everyone.
I can do a little demo. I think I've got the app open live. I don't know if I can do that, if that would be helpful for them. I don't know if
yeah, maybe let's ask everyone.
No, it's not. No, it won't. It doesn't want to. No, it's fine. The app is enough. They can go to graphs and just like you've shown, it's perfectly okay.
Good. Yeah, if you guys just take a picture, you should be fine. You should be able to find it. Okay, so good luck with the homework for everyone, and we'll see you next week, guys.
Yep, practice hard, and I look forward to seeing you guys next Monday. Next Monday. And yeah, thanks again. And in fact, we've got 2 minutes left. If you want to just say anything more, or you've got a question that you'd like me to consider for the next lesson, just pop it in the chat, and then I will just be aware of if you've got a comment, feel free to leave it in the chat.